put on Love Jones, the soundtrack, and let it ride all the way through and have a romantic evening with somebody. I don't think I'm gonna put them in order.
Okay.
I'm a vibe off of you.
Okay.
So since we went into the 70s, I will also go into the 70s with the great songwriter, producer, and musician Curtis Mayfield with the Superfly soundtrack of 1972. That Give Me Your Love.
Give me your love.
Like once again, all of that soundtrack is Curtis Mayfield's manifesto of the Black community. And I don't think it gets enough credit how he tapped in for that movie.
Ooh.
From all facets of it, to the underbelly ugly, to what is the potential and what we can possibly be. But just the heart of Black culture, Black life at that time. That man embodied it vocally, instrumentally, just everything. Give Me Your Love. Like it was so much to that soundtrack of Superfly. It really, really was. And once again, and I'll tell you, here's my connection to that. My grandfather actually, that's the first album that I actually ever paid attention to when I was young. My grandfather had that, and back in the day, the old people had the TV, those curio like things where it includes the TV and the record player.
Yes.
All that big wooden thing that you have to get 6 people to move all to another. My grandfather, because I don't believe my grandmother would have the Superfly album. That's just against her holy nature. But my grandfather had it, and I had to be like 7 years oldish, maybe 5, 6, maybe 5, 6. 7 was too late. But I actually I looked at the album cover, and I'm seeing it artistically what it was. But when you open up the insert, it actually gave the visual of the scene in the movie when Freddie got killed. So it had him bloodied up in his death look in that insert of that album cover. Once again, the song Freddie's Dead.
Yeah. Don't.
So when I saw that, that was my first visualization of what death looks like. And it shook me because it scared me from actually listening to it. I was like, this is like something dangerous. This is something scary. I can't, even when I wanted to, I couldn't do it because of the impact of what that album did to me in my spirit as a child.
Wow.
But as growing and hearing the music and not understanding that it was correlated to that movie.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, this man was a genius. Oh, this man was a genius. So yeah, Superfly, the soundtrack, Curtis Mayfield. Once again, I would argue with somebody, or I would challenge somebody rather to argue with me that that is not one of the most prominent albums with a soundtrack ever put out there.
Okay. Didn't Isaac Hayes work on some stuff?
Well, he was a contributor to it, but that was very much on Curtis Mayfield's baby.
Yes. But still, that's a level of greatness as well. Like, it's mind-blowing the stuff that they produce, and people still, the things that we're talking about, it's not just because we like this particular or we honor. People are still tapping in and taking it and spitting out different versions of that. And it's just amazing. And I love that you picked Curtis Mayfield. It's now bringing back a memory. My mother was a big fan, and he had a song, and I don't know why we did this. He had a song called Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Amen. And we would clap our hands and march around the table. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Me and my 3 sisters, it was 4 of us. Well, but I'm just making it for the audience. But he had something for everyone.
Yes, he did. Outside of that, I mean, once again, his contributions as an artist, period, are profound. But that soundtrack, though, like that was putting people on notice. Like, we have a mind, we have such creativity, you know what I mean, and our storytelling abilities,
Woo.
like that is ancestral,
Yes.
to do something in that way. And once again, it's the influence. There's that album has been sampled, the songs have been remade. It's still influential. Different genres have remade some of his things. So once again, you can't deny the influence of him as an artist, but even the songs on that sound. But yeah, that, like I said, that was the first album cover that I actually ever held in my hands and actually looked at the artistry of albums and understood that it was an album cover. An album was an artistic expression before I heard it. And I didn't understand that at the time, but I got my introduction in it with seeing Freddie laid out. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Yes.
I have
So
Superfly.
I love that. What a good, that's a good one. That's a great one. I think I'm going to go a little bit more current and I'm going to mention this. And I think our babies may know this. One band, one sound. Where did that come from?
That came from with Nick Cannon.
Drumline.
Yeah.
I love, and I think it came out in 2001 or 2002. But one song that really, really stood out, and it gave me like the chills, and it was only a small, maybe minute of the song. So I don't know if you can recall when he was pushing up on Zoe. What was her character in the movie? I can't think of her name.
I can't remember right now myself. I'm sorry.
Well, anyway, he was pushing up on her and he paid for her food and she said, "Hey, you can take me to this dance or whatever." So anyway, they're there and she performs with her sorority and they do their stepping. And then the boys come, or the men, excuse me, and they do their fraternity, step. And for a second or for a minute, they connect and everything around them is no longer stimulated or available. And you hear Alicia Keys with Butterflies. You give me butterflies. And it's so beautiful, but how they timed it just right where you can see the men still performing and doing their dance, but you can't hear. It's just the two of them. And I've been in a zone before where it's just me and that person. And the music is loud and people are laughing, but because it's such an intimate connection, only you can hear what he's saying and only he can hear what you're saying.
So question, in that movie, the cinematography that was done at that time, wasn't it also in like slow motion as well?
Yes.
Slow motion. So it meant it was cinematic in the sense of slowing down time so you can actually be in that moment with them.
And that is emulating life. For example, I'll just go back one time. I was at an event and I had my daughter on my hip and my son, I had his hand. And some reason he darted off. And before you know it, I'm looking for him. And when we go, this is just in life. When something happens, our breath shortens.
Right.
And when our breath stops or shortens, we are now in another space and time. And I was like, and I can hear people talking to me, but I'm like, where is my child? Where's my child? And it's like everything has slowed down. So when you see in the movies, like people are falling, that is a real representation. And for me, I saw somebody and I handed my daughter, and now I didn't even have time to reach out because at the time my husband was with me to say he's lost. I'm just like scanning, scanning, scanning. And when I found him at the playground, I'm like, so I say all that to say we can get into that mode where everything slows down because we are manifestors, and we can go into that where we're speed up, or
Yeah.
we can slow down. So I
But
didn't mean to go
no,
into too much detail, but that reminded me of that moment where you can slow things down.
but that's the beauty of certain soundtracks and certain movies. They give you something about life and its principle that you can apply, and not to go off out of that, but that's like the art of like yoga or things, or tantric things, where the study is to slow down your breathing so you can be present in what's going on, and to control it, and to see what it is, so that way when you go back to the regular breathing and speeding it up, you have more of an awareness of things. So I mean, yeah, that's universal, sis. I mean, yeah, you're right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I just love that song. I thought it was beautifully done. It was written by Alicia Keys when she was 14.
Mm-hmm.
She did not actually put it out until later. And just some fun facts about her. She's actually, people know her for her music, but she's in the Writers Hall of Fame. She's a prolific songwriter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, to me, I like her writing as much as I do her music, to be honest.
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
I mean, a talented person, but that movie spawned another. Let's talk about just that movie as well. Spawned a generation of young people who may not have had college on their minds to be inspired to look at going to college.
And can I tap in one other level to that?
Mm-hmm.
That may not thought that they wanted to be a part of the band, and it made it look sexy
Uh-huh.
and made it look appealing.
Mm-hmm. And once again, one band, one sound, the conflict that happened in the movie, and how they had to shed their ego to make it go, to make it what it was supposed to have been. You know,
Yes.
it's a lot of different nuanced conversations in that movie, but
Yeah.
awesome movie.
Yeah. And if I may say, it goes back to what we were originally talking about, doing things together as a unit, but we have to be able collectively to work together.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why I said one band, one sound.
Say that. Yes, yes, definitely that.
All right.
So, okay, I'm gonna throw it back to you.
All right.
What's your next one?
Okay, so my next one, I like, the movie is a classic. The soundtrack is solid, but there's one song that was very important to me growing up, and that movie is Jason's Lyric. Jason's Lyric is a very awesome movie, that's based around a love story, but it's based also around a biblical principle of like a Cain and Abel.
Come on now.
Dynamic of that. And one of the songs in the soundtrack was a song called You Will Know by Black Men United,
Yes.
that was produced by Brian McKnight and D'Angelo, and had a slew of artists, R. Kelly and Stokely from Mint Condition, and Tevin Campbell, just a myriad of brothers that came on that song. And once again, sticking with the theme of the movie and that plot, the breakdowns is: your dreams ain't easy. You must stick by your plan. To go from boys to man, you must act like a man. It gets hard, y'all, but just act like you know. Stand up tall and don't you fall, and you will know. You know what I mean? That's the breakdown or the bridge of the song. And once again, that movie came out mid '90s, and that was a time when a lot of we were not exiting out of, but it was at the height of gang activity, the height, the street hardness. It was like at its pinnacle, you know.
Yes.
And it was kind of like at its apex, rather, where it's like, okay, it's become so prominent. Where do we go from here? Had a lot of young men that did not identify, like myself, didn't identify with particular lifestyles of, you know, thugging and gangs and you know, doing irreparable harm against yourself and your community.
Yes.
Where it's like the squeaky oil gets the wheel. Like, you know, you see all these people paying attention to, you know, these particular people and these particular things, but what about the ones that don't make this kind of noise, the ones that don't get in trouble, the ones that...
Brother, I'm sorry to stop you. You're
I'm
I
sorry,
only see your name. I
okay,
can't see your face. Okay, there we go.
on me. But you know, it was a matter of where do we fit? Like, where's our inspiration? And when that song came out, it was like a rally call to say, it's all right, young black boy. You're going to see some things that are going to make you confused. There's going to be some things that's going to challenge you. It's going to be some hardships of how you may have grown up or your environment. But you know what you got in you. You know what I mean? Tap into that, you know, and persevere through it all. You know what I mean? That song is very much so speaking to the warrior spirit of what it means to grow from a boy to a man. You know what I mean? So that movie, that song, what the character, and now I'm starting to forget stuff. The Jake was the brother.
Yes.
But oh my goodness, but just the way that he was once again, he had his balance. He was hard when he needed to, but he was tender. He loved his mother. He respected his mother. He was a good worker. He was in the community. You know what I mean? He was his brother's keeper. And how the weight of that can be on you.
And as a man making a decision, is this mine to hold?
Right.
Can I move on from this? So it also talked about, from my perspective, generational cycles that have not been healed.
Right.
That all of this stemmed from their dad that went into the military, and he was dealing with things, and how the mother was trying to deal with it, and the energy that fell off on two of the different boys. One had one perspective, one had another perspective, but it was still that demon they were dealing with that their dad was dealing with originally.
And the brother not understanding the damage that he was doing to his brother that was trying to do right. And let me repeat that. One brother didn't understand in his way how he was actually doing damage to the other brother that was trying to do right. And he knew his brother's nature, and yet still did things opposite of support of that nature. He drew things out of him instead of pouring into him. Josh.
That's his name. Yes.
Josh. But just in dealing in all of that, to have, you know, with Jada's character, like, be so smitten as a man. I remember being smitten. My wife, when I first, you know, started, you know, dating or courting to a particular degree, and I had a lot of things going on in my life too, not as far as other women, but just like when a man sees something and it becomes his purpose, his desire, and his want. How, you know, it can. She was not checking for him in the surface of it all, but his persistence, his humility. Like, one of the best lines is like, "I'm not trying to bother you. I just want to be where you at."
Okay.
At the grocery store, I'll be down the other aisle. If you at the church, I'll just be back in the other pew. I just want to be where you at. Cold game. Like, I'm not trying to interrupt your life.
Yeah.
I want to be a part of that. When I'm a moth drawn to your flame. Just let me be in the atmosphere of you.
Yes.
And that's all I ask. You know what I mean? the beat, and he did it sincerely. That he played that role really good.
Yes. Oh, even with the Southern drawl,
Yeah.
like how you, it was just beautiful, and how he pursued her. He wasn't okay when she was like, no, not yet. He continued to pursue her and continue to find out things that she liked and continue to pour into her. And that made her unzipped her barrier, where she began to show who she is and her love and her protection for him. And I think that's a good way to just talk about now today. It takes time. Just because you roll up and she say no or she dismissive, if you believe that she's the one, come a different way, come another way. And for the women, allow men to unpack over time to show who they are. Just don't jump and say, yes, this is what it is. So it's multiple things that we can take from that movie. And I think that was an excellent pick.
And I think in the Whitehead brothers had a song on there called "Forget I Was a G." The Whitehead brothers, they were some good singers. They were some good musicians. Like they actually that soundtrack actually had a lot of different a variety of artists from hip hop to R&B. That soundtrack is pretty good. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But that Black Man United, you will know that is like a rallying cry. You can play, once again, 30 years ago, you can play that song now to the brothers who, you know, in the midst of the culture that we have, that late in the in between, you know what I mean? The not quite the goody two shoes, but not quite the rugged thugged ones, and the, you know, the disregardful ones, that lie in between, like, where do I fit?
Mm-hmm.
And have that song speak to you and be inspiration. Like it's a powerful song. You know, they did their thing with it.
Oh, I definitely agree. Matter of fact, I had a guest on first season and they talked about that very song, and they talked about how it inspired them and many others. So kudos to Jason Lyrics. And for those that may watch this and never heard, please check it out. Jada Pickett, what's his name? Alan Payne.
Alan Payne, yeah.
And a slew of other actors and actress did just a wonderful job.
Yes, great cast.
Yes.
Great script.
Yes, yes. It was of substance. Like I feel like now we need to do some work, because if I can go into the movie and I can predict what's going to happen, I'm not happy with it. So
yeah.
But I digress.
Okay.
Moving on to my third one. I love this movie. I'm talking about the original, and then they had multiple ones to go with it, and I enjoyed that as well. But The Best Man.
Oh yeah.
Soundtrack was amazing. And one of the songs that it was a plethora of other songs. So you go, it's like candy. That wasn't a song, but that was one of the songs. But the song that I really, really enjoyed was what's the name of the song? I'm gonna give it to you. I don't know why I'm discombobulated today.
They had a lot of hitters on there.
It was the one with Lauryn Hill. Turn the lights down low. So that song actually was written by Bob Marley. It originally came out in 1977 on his album Exodus, and it was remastered version featuring Lauryn Hill that was released in 1999. And of course, it was on that soundtrack. And I just love, if you think about, I want to give you some good loving. Oh, I want to give you some good loving. And then it goes into, what is it? I want to give you some good loving. I think I just wrote down the bridge, but oh, I.
That melody.
I want to give you some good loving. Who don't want some good loving?
Okay. Something wrong with you if you don't.
Yes. And I feel like Lauryn did a exceptional job with taking Bob Marley stuff and reinventing it for that time. And she's done that with several of his songs.
Absolutely.
But particularly that movie, I feel like um when what's his name? Merch was picking up Tay Diggs, and you get a little bit of that song in the beginning of the movie, but just a wonderful song, and I love that.
Well, in the beginning of that movie, before any characters even popped on the screen, the "What You Want" song by the Roots and Jaguar Wright, the way is what you want, right? Is what you need. But here's the thing: if you hear how Black Thought wrote the lyrics, he played out the movie in the lyrics to the T, and it was a jam. It was a jam on top of that. But where he was like somebody hitting off my best man, hitting off my wife to be, and in the way that he flowed it in, I was like, yeah, this is gonna be a good movie. Like, so right off the bat, some of the songs in the movie and on the soundtrack was like banging, banging, banging.
Yes.
Maxwell was on there. Eric Benet's Pretty Girl. Um, Maxwell's Let's Not Play the Game.
Okay.
And once again, Let's Not Play the Game. That was a good song. And once again, the songs that were in tune with the theme of the movie itself. Like,
yes.
What a really good soundtrack puts together. And Best Man is definitely one of those too. Yeah.
Yes. I just love the movie. It was fresh, it was exciting, it was something that we had never seen about the men getting married, and you get to see both sides where something has happened and it kind of leads up to this climaxing point where finally we find out what happened. You kind of allude to it along the way. I love the particular scene where Nia Long character was in the store with Tay Diggs, and they was buying some china, and he was like, "You think that's good?" She was like, "Yeah." And they began to talk about food and how Mia could cook, and the image on his face.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're gonna go into women and their intuition, okay?
Mm-hmm.
She like, "You dirty dog." And he was like, "What?"
What? Right.
And he never had to say anything. He never had to confirm it. But from the energy and the way he looked, she was like, "I get it. You, oh my God." And you dedicated the book, and I mean, it just started to unravel from there.
Yeah. But even uh um the other guy's character, uh what's that boy name? Oh my goodness. The one who Terrence Howard's.
Okay, okay. Yeah, oh, he was something else.
He was an antagonist the whole while. He had it figured out before anybody else.
Okay. And he was so we all meet people that know what the end is, and they play the games to get. And remember, he was sitting in the room. He was like, "So,
yeah,
you think you've been the only one for Mia?" And he
yeah,
was like, "Yeah, I'm the first, the last, and everything." He was like, "Okay."
yeah. He was antagonizing the whole way. You know what I mean? But that movie once again has so many different messages to it. You know, it's. I think a lot of people have been in situations where they did what was expected of them, but there's a duality to them, and some can be forthright and honest in the truth with it, and some have the burden of carrying it, and what that looks like when you are dealing with people you are charged to love, care for, be close with, how that plays out. And once again, that was his truth and their truth.
Yeah.
But because they were friends and communal with so many people close to them, how holding that truth mattered in some instances and didn't matter in some other instances. Like, you would think like, oh, well, it'd been over. Like, once again, the whole movie, we was like, yeah, it's going to be over if he finds out. It's going to be over. Who would sit and go through that? But look what happened. He persevered through it.
Yeah, yeah.
What he had. But in that other instance, it's like he went on with his life, but he never really pursued what was his soulmate or the real love of his life, and how them two not being true to each other, playing the game.
Yes.
Would it end up costing them to a degree? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also too, let's just talk about a man in his heydays that is in sports and attracted to all these women and still making the decision to do on the side multiple times and brag about it and talk about it, but she does it the one time and he about to lose his mind. That's a real reality.
That's because men traditionally have looked at women as a possession.
Ooh, wait, pause a moment. Say that again.
Because traditionally, men have looked at women as a possession. And because women theoretically receive men, we conquer and we go about things not understanding that when we give that kind of energy, we lessen the connections that it can be at times. And all of his conquests was just manifested in the lesson connection that they had in that moment with them. And once again, that he could have went his whole life not knowing the truth, and he would have been fine in it. But the whole thing is knowing the value that she was beyond. Here's the real message: the sister was beyond that moment.
Yes.
Her worth and her value was beyond that, whether you want to call it an indiscretion, whether you want to call it a weakness, whatever it was, she was more than that moment.
But he could not get past, he kept replaying him sleeping, and it was messing up his mind. Like he was about to lose it. In the church. He didn't give a damn.
But in the end, what prevailed? He knew
love.
He knew what he had. And that's the funny thing. And I think this was a real life lesson. What Mia did ain't have really nothing to do with Lance. She had a desire she wanted to fulfill outside of him, and it really wasn't personal. And in life, we think when people do stuff to us, we think they did it to us, and it's personal. And a lot of times, it don't have nothing to do with us. What his friend did wasn't against him as a best friend. That was him falling into his own personal lust and his own personal thing. All Lance had to do was learn from it. And luckily, Lance still had the love of his life, and he didn't let those indiscretions or those incidences ruin or take hold of what was given to him as a wonderful wife and to create a wonderful life.
And in addition to that, I like that you gave that background or that spiel, but also think about how originally, I can't think his name, I think it's Merch. He had a woman that did not value him, that led him around by his nose. Nothing he could say, nothing was valid. No, I need this, I need that.
Right.
And he turned around and chose a woman that they may say that was in the night. It gave the impression that she was only a street woman, but when they had the conversation, she was much deeper. They connected because they had a love for a poet, and it made him look at things in a different way. So it was multiple things like don't judge a book by a cover, and all of these play out in part 2, and then I think they had a part 3.
Yeah, Malcolm Lee, the director of that movie, did his thing as well with how he told that story. It was, once again, it was one of those movies that's ingrained in our culture. Very, very good movie. And once again, the soundtrack to that went right along. They crafted that soundtrack really good to all the themes, having a song to go with those themes.
Yes. And I love too just how to me, if we're going to talk about our culture, we talked about again, we're not monolithic, but I love all facets. When she was walking down the street, she was like, girl, these Negroes want some neck bones. We are not having neck bones, you know? So just to give multiple perspectives, because we do have the Southerns that like, hey, this is what I want. And then you have the people that may be a little bit more refined, like, no, we're not doing that. But it's giving collectively, we all are each other, you know?
Right. And forgiveness, because in each facet, with the exception of merch, everybody hurt the one that says that they claim to love the most.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Everybody was doing something to somebody that they claimed they loved the most. And how forgiveness had to be given in order for them to progress and grow.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that would have been a whole different movie if everybody kept on their grudge.
And that's again with life.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to continue to stay in that spot where you were hurt, acknowledge the hurt, say what you have to do, but don't keep playing that replay button over and over again? You have to move forward. And that's the only way you're going to see a different perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like that. So now let me give you another movie now, because you pivoted to Lauryn Hill's Turn Your Lights Down Low with The Best Man. So my movie next that I would put, which is pretty much a almost entirely A+ soundtrack and movie, is Love Jones.
Woo!
And one of the prominent songs from Love Jones is Lauryn Hill, Sweetest Thing.
Yes.
And you can't tell me you don't feel a relaxation and a vibe and a love tingle when you hear that song.
Yes. Yes.
Deion Ferris, Penny with a Hole in It. Maxwell's Urban Suite, Slow Down Something Something.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's that soundtrack has so many bangers, so many bangers to it. Yeah, that movie, Lorenz Tate, Nia Long, how was it? My favorite part of the movie is when him and Isaiah Washington's character, who was the married man that, you know, he and his wife hosted the parties and events, how they were playing pool table. And, you know, Nina had finally gotten to, you know, Darius's name, Skin. And he was like trying to figure out what way he should go with Nina. And old boy said, everybody talking about love. Everybody talking about love. Tell me how to stay in it.
Okay.
Falling in love ain't nothing. Tell me what's the key of staying in it.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah.
I remember that part, but also if you remember, and I don't know if it was that same part, he was like, she the one. He was like, man, yeah, she the one. He was like, what? For
Right.
real? And once he started talking about that, that made him draw back
Yeah.
and say, ooh, maybe I'm making a mistake. So I feel like men influence other men.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the men don't tell their truth. Us women be like, listen, it could be 5 of the women that say, and be like, listen, I love him. I don't care if you don't love him. I'm going with him. Men be like, ooh, maybe not. And sometimes it causes them to lose someone that's really special to them because the men are like, oh, you don't want to be there. You don't want to, or like you say, can somebody tell me how to stay in love?
Well, see, in that moment, they were giving each other's truths, but they weren't vulnerable. They even in that moment, they weren't vulnerable, because in that moment, Darius, Lorenz Tate character, loved Nina more than he said he did.
True.
He wasn't vulnerable in that love. With old boy Isaiah Washington's character, him and his wife was going through it, but he wasn't vulnerable to be like, man, me and my wife, we going through it. See, it acted out in different ways. Have the hardest time being vulnerable, and because we can't be vulnerable, it's hard for us to really get what we need,
or tell the full picture of your truth, like you said.
right? It's difficult because a lot of times truths are weaponized against us. Like, no matter what it is, I think that's in a lot of facets, especially men. Um, Especially men, because the bravado is you have to be strong, you have to be stoic, you have to be certain, you have to, um, be assured in your movements. A lot of men have the vulnerabilities where we don't know, we're unassured, we don't know the ways to particular things, but we can't say that because we looked for the leadership, for the strongness, for the stoicness, and those sort of things. And once again, that moment was one of those things. They had a grand opportunity to break down with one another, but it was just surface.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
But
just
you're right, it was surface. I agree with you 100%, but I think this is a good way for men and women. So I believe if Tay Diggs had a opportunity to be very vulnerable with just her, when she said, "Hey, I have the opportunity to go to Chicago for what I think she was doing photographs or whatever," and he kind of, instead of saying, "You know what, I want to still keep this relationship going on," he was like, "Okay."
yeah.
He missed the mark. So when he said okay, she was like, "Okay," and moved on.
Mm.
So we have to also know, or I'll say this to men, don't miss the mark when you have the opportunity to say what you need to say, just you and the woman. It
Mm.
wasn't any man around. He could have really, but I think he didn't know how to say that, or his pride or his ego covered it up to say, "No, I want to be with us. I still want us to have a relationship." And then you see his butt running to the train at the last minute to
Mhm.
try to get her attention. And
Right.
it's
It speaks of men being confined in a perceptual role,
mm.
confined to it. He was confined to the cool Darius.
Ooh, wait a minute, sir. You are teaching me something that I didn't even think about.
Yeah, think about it. His persona. He was the cool one. He was the one that was, the calm, collected, thought, poetic. When he was confined in that woman blew up all of his sensibilities. How could he? And that's the thing. Sisters, be patient. We have to. Sometimes a man has to rationalize what his feelings are, even though feelings generally aren't supposed to be rationalized, because we have to understand it. If we're led by all feelings, that's why you have emotional and intelligent people walking around here and don't know what they're doing to people.
But can I say this? If you are emotionally balanced,
Mhm.
you will know when to be sincere and get that energy out.
Right. And we all know there's a small percentage of us that actually have it, that can actually walk in it. It's a daily work and step for most of us all the time. And the things that we thought one way this week, we meet something or experience something that changes our whole lives around, and we have to reevaluate that perspective. But like in that movie, and to your point, Cassandra Wilson has a song on that soundtrack called "You Move Me."
Oh my, oh, will you, oh,
"Move Me" is one of the low key, most sensual, seductive.
oh.
Like, it's a rap. So I'm almost revealing some of my secrets, but that song, you cannot be in. And once again, I think Coltrane, "In the Sentimental Mood" is on that
Yes.
as well.
And
Go ahead.
and didn't they do, was it A Love Supreme was on there too?
No, "Love Supreme" wasn't on that one.
That was the other movie. Okay, I know that's Do
That's
the Right Thing.
Oh Better Blues.
Yes, that's my one of my favorites. Yeah, sorry, getting them mixed up.
That's another one. Another one. That's a underground, not underground, underrated powerful movie in our diaspora. But
oh, we're gonna talk about that. But
yeah, but I'm just saying, soundtrack wise and movie wise, Love Jones and the movie it produced. And once again, you can put on Love Jones, the soundtrack, and let it ride all the way through and have a romantic evening with somebody and not have to press fast forward.
yes, yes,
That is a very good accomplishment for a movie that's about love.
yes, yes,
So
yes.
Love Jones got to be in my top and one of my favorites.
Oh my gosh, that was absolutely beautiful. I know I have one more, and I can even think of what it is because I'm so drawn to the conversation and the points that you've made in the movie. But let's bring it as current as possible. So if we have someone that's, say, 18 through 25 and they're tapping in, let's talk about, and I hope you don't mind me skipping around.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Wakanda soundtrack.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Now, which one? The second Wakanda Forever?
Yes, let's talk about the Wakanda Forever
20,
and 20. You said it again.
that's 2022 when that came out.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's more current. And just to talk, we have Burna Boy,
Mm-hmm.
Alone.
Mm-hmm.
What a beautiful, beautiful, even though we understand what he's talking about, but it was beautifully crafted, and you can hear the agony and the unsureness and the fight in the heart of the song. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
I am, but in your playing to what makes that the mention of that movie in the soundtrack aspect of it, just like what we've mentioned, mostly all of the songs in that soundtrack are about an element of the movie. From the agony of Burna Boy's Alone,
Yes.
from, let's say, so we're talking about the young people that may be listening, from SZA and Kendrick Lamar's all,
Correct.
because it was about the stars, the ancestors going up to the stars. From Rihanna, Lift Me Up, and what it meant for the legacy, as far as what that song is really talking about, and the people that pour into that with his mom, with her mom, and her brother that passed. It once again, all of those songs on the soundtrack, and those are the ones that are the most popular, I think. Those,
Yes.
but if you just listen to the whole soundtrack, it's all very valuable to parts of that movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Now that I think about it, I think, and this is just me, I feel like I've gained a different understanding or additional understanding
Mhm.
on men perspective just by you talking about the different aspects and how you withhold, how even what you talked about, let's go back to Love Jones, how he was the cool one. And
Mhm.
once you embody that persona, how are you able to navigate out when you need to, or are you just stuck in that persona of being who you are and not really getting the chance
Mhm.
to really live life because you're just stuck in one way?
Mhm. And how you confined to it, just like in The Best Man, Lance was in that vein. The celebrity jock that had the world on a string. He couldn't. How could he break out of not being the champion and the dominant one and not having won over everybody else? To be
Ooh,
vulnerable, somebody had something over him, where it's something that he could not control. Like all of those things challenged the men. Even in Waiting to Excel, all of the men in their characters, they were in one way, and the women were challenging them to be another way,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
they couldn't get out of it.
Yeah, just like we'll talk about, and everybody knows someone that has, and I have no quorum in how this played out, but think about Wendy Houston character where she met him a long time ago. They had a connection, and how he poured into her, and she soon found out that it was just talk. He was not leaving his wife. Matter of fact, they had another baby on the way, and she was like, "What?" And from a woman point of view, I would encourage women, when you do have a past connection with someone and you come back together, I would always encourage you to do your due diligence before you do anything. Really give it time to bake to really see where he's at. And then if you discover that he is still with someone else, your heart is not scarred and you can move on about your business. So take your time.
Well, here's the thing with that particular, this is my interpretation. She was fine with it all. He just lied to her. Had he been truthful in everything, she would have rocked along right away.
That's a good point.
And see, and what it was is she started, and naturally, she understood what it was, but he gave her the perception that it was on the outs and there was something wrong. And with that, she used that as the anchoring, like, okay, let me roll and let me hear what you got to say. She didn't say, no, I ain't finna mess with you until you got all of that stuff handled and situated, and then we can rock. No, she was like, I love you, I want you, and I'm cool with that. But when she started discovering the truth of he actually don't have the marriage out the door on the way, he really is solidifying it. Had he not, and once again, this is a whole nother cultural conversation.
Yes.
but the truth of the matter is, he was giving her what she needed. She just wanted more.
Mm, mm. So, I think this is a great way for maybe us in the future to explore relationship dynamics connected to the movies,
Yeah,
connected to the music, and that way we can really dive in and analyze the character. Because sometimes when we're talking about things, people cannot see what it is, but if they can go in and say, let me watch that movie and maybe come back and say, wow, I get that perspective. So collectively, I think we can make people look at things, we can give the opportunity. Let me correct my words. We can give the opportunity, because we should not make anybody do anything. We provide options and then they can choose. Now, even with that, we can drop a seed and it may not be used until 10 years from now.
Correct. Because that movie 30 years ago is still, once again, very valid to this day.
Yeah.
And even in Savannah, Leela Roshan, I think that's her character.
Come on.
How Leon, her cohort, how he wasn't making any bones about nothing. He wasn't necessarily hiding anything. She just wanted to be the one.
And as a woman that can see, now I get to speak from my point of view, she knew he wasn't about something and still pursued it. So I believe let's have another conversation where we can talk about characters and how they represent real life and what we can learn from it and not do in the future.
I'm with that. That is the next evolution of messages being revealed.
I love it, brother. I love it. I hate to end it, but if not, you and I can be on here for 2 more hours. It's just something special about you. That's why I love you and I let the world know. That's why I call you brother. And this is not what we just do in front of each other. We've been doing this, I love you, embrace each other, for many, many years. And I will continue to do that. So before we get out of here, I do want you to provide information if someone wants to give a monetary donation, if someone wants to give a time donation, if somebody wants to give a masterfully thinking donation, because sometimes ideas are donations as well. So can you please let them know how they can contact you or the actual foundation?
Okay, well, yes, we have an Instagram page, Elite Alumni Group. We also have a website, EliteAlumniGroupLP.com. You can contact myself, Eric Foster, if you want any additional information as well. you, once again, besides the Instagram, we on Facebook as well. We have a Facebook profile as well. If you want to do any donations, like as far as Zelle, it's the Elite Alumni Group LP at iCloud.com. We have Cash App, we have PayPal, Zelle.
And not to stop you, but make sure you give all that information. I'll put in the description box
Okay.
so they
Yes.
can.
Yes, it's just simply Elite Alumni Group LV at iCloud.com. That's the tag for any donations, whether it be Zelle, whether it be Cash App, whether it be PayPal. And once again, those funds are used to pour back into the community, into the youth, to pour back into various organizations and programs in which we wish to enlighten the community in various ways. We're doing more tree planting. We'll be doing more, giveaways, more endowments, and just general support. Not Kelsey's, but we actually just gave some money to an organization that did a college tour in Atlanta and South Carolina about a couple of weeks ago. And some funds that we raised went towards that. So, but the biggest thing is just pray for us as an organization. I would ask for the community to do. When you see the Elite Alumni logo that you see behind me or anything like that, just know that it's some men just trying to do the right thing by one another and by the community at large. And I thank everybody that has supported us thus far, and be looking out for us. We plan on doing a lot of good things. Shout out to Michael Garrett, who's the inspiration. Rest your soul, good brother. And the illustrious, once again, Dr. Lawrence, Lil Larry is what we call him weekly. Thank you so much, brother, for your encouragement, for your inspiration, for your guidance. You two men have, once again, the over 1,200 of us that have graduated and went through this organization. We would not be who we are without for you guys. So thank you for that as well. I have to say that.
That's wonderful. Thank you for shouting out those men, because it's an African proverb that I hold close. If you benefited or you ate off that plate, you must give credit, even if you didn't like the food. Sometimes we'll say we like this piece, we like that piece, but we still need to give credit to where credit is due. So thank you for saying that. Thank you for I don't know what it is. We just have what the song. It's a vibe. It's a vibe.
Yeah. Always a vibe. Since I was, honestly, since I was 15, 16 years old, I've been around you in your life. And so that's over, once again, 30 plus years. Don't have to give all of them, but 30 plus years of just love, laughter, comfort, communion, just everything. And once again, I am internally grateful to you and your family, your mother especially, you know what I mean, for welcoming me in as a son so I can be your brother. You know what I mean? Just and everybody from Regal Estates.
And say that.
Berkeley Square, stand up. Biggest heights. You know what I mean? All y'all.
Yes, definitely that. Thank you so much. And I cannot express how much I love and appreciate more than anything your mind and your perspective and how you are able to articulate the man perspective, the world perspective, and also be as gentle enough to tap into the women perspective. Because one thing people seem to forget, even though we are men and women, we both have both attributes. It's just which energy do you feed the most represents who you are. And you represent a man for me, because not only do you give that masculine energy, you are also able to tap in and be feminine in a way that still represents your masculine energy. And that's that's a rarity all by itself. So I appreciate you. I love you, and let's continue to do our work. And I appreciate you as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your platform with me and allowing me to share what I got going on. And most importantly, just catching up and sharing our love for movies and important music. Music.
Yes, for sure. You guys, please put your hand together for my brother, and I always say it 2 times, my brother, but this time I'll say it 3 times. My brother, Eric.
Love you, sis.
As I say to all my guests, I'll see you out here in these Las Vegas streets.
Yeah, let's hit the corner.